The morning sun shone bright through the crystal dome of the Galactic Defense Academy as Jin Woo walked down the long silver hallway. His new armor made soft clicking sounds with each step, and the blue lights on his chest plate blinked in a steady rhythm. Other students moved out of his way when they saw him coming. Jin Woo smiled at this because he liked when people knew he was important. Jin Woo came from Titan Military Institute, where only the best students could go. He had scored perfect marks in plasma weapon training and energy shield combat. His teachers always said he was the most talented cadet they had ever seen. Now at the Galactic Defense Academy, he planned to show everyone that humans from the outer colonies were superior fighters. The academy was full of strange alien students. There were tall blue centaurians with 4 arms and clicking sounds that came from their mouths. Crystal beings from Vorthon floated in the air and made musical humming noises when they talked. Big, furry creatures from the ice planet Kelvar stomped around on thick legs and breathed clouds of cold air. Jin Woo thought they all looked weak compared to humans who had the best technology and training. As he entered the main training hall, Jin Woo saw hundreds of students sitting in neat rows. Each one was cleaning and checking their weapons for the morning inspection. Most students had plasma rifles that glowed with green or blue energy. Some had photon cannons that were as big as their bodies. Others carried energy swords that crackled with electricity. The weapons made the air buzz with power and cast colorful lights on the metal walls. Jin Woo found an empty spot and pulled out his own plasma rifle. It was the newest model with auto-targeting systems and triple energy cores. The weapon could fire 50 shots per minute, and each blast could melt through solid steel. He began polishing the barrel with special cleaning cloth while admiring how the other students looked at his advanced equipment with envy. That was when he noticed something very strange in the far corner of the hall. A small human girl sat by, herself doing something that made no sense at all. She was carefully cleaning what looked like an old piece of metal. Jin Woo squinted his eyes to see better and realized it was some kind of ancient sword made from regular steel. The girl looked very young, maybe only 17 years old. Her black hair was tied back in a simple style, and she wore the basic academy uniform without any special decorations. But what really caught Jin Woo's attention was how seriously she treated that old weapon. She held it like it was the most precious thing in the universe. Her fingers moved along the metal surface with gentle care as if she was touching something sacred. Jin Woo stood up to get a closer look. The sword was definitely old and worn. The steel blade had scratches and marks from years of use. Strange. Symbols were carved into the metal near the handle, but Jin Woo could not read what they meant. The leather wrap around the grip was dark with age and looked ready to fall apart. Compared to all the high-tech weapons around them, it looked like junk from a museum. Other students began to notice what Jin Woo was staring at. A group of centaurians clicked their mandibles together, which was how they laughed. Some Vorthon crystals started humming in harmony, which meant they found something amusing. Even the big Kelvar students made rumbling sounds deep in their throats as they looked at the primitive weapon. Jin Woo felt embarrassed that another human would bring such an old, useless thing to the greatest military academy in the galaxy. It made all humans look backward and primitive. He decided he had to do something about this situation before it got worse. Walking over to the girl, he made sure to speak loud enough for everyone to hear. The girl looked up at him with dark brown eyes that seemed much older than her young face. She did not say anything, but just kept polishing the blade with slow, careful movements. This made Jin Woo even more annoyed because he expected her to be scared, or at least surprised by his approach. More students gathered around to watch what would happen. Jin Woo felt the pressure to prove his point even stronger now. He gestured at his own plasma rifle with its glowing energy cores and digital display screens. Then he pointed at her simple steel sword and shook his head in disbelief. The girl remained calm and quiet. She did not try to defend her weapon or explain why she carried it. Instead, she just continued her maintenance routine as if Jin Woo was not even there. Her peaceful attitude only made him more determined to show everyone how foolish she was being. Some of the alien students started making bets about what would happen next. The Centaurians were known for loving combat and drama. The Vorthons enjoyed seeing conflicts between different species. Even the usually peaceful Kelvars seemed interested in this strange situation developing before them. Jinwoo realized this was his chance to establish himself as the top human student at the academy. If he could prove that modern human technology was superior to old primitive methods, then everyone would respect him even more. The girl with her ancient sword was the perfect target to demonstrate his advanced training and equipment. He looked around at all the watching faces and felt confident in his abilities. After all, he had never lost a fight at Titan Military Institute. His plasma weapon skills were legendary among his classmates. His energy shield techniques had impressed even the toughest instructors. This small girl with her old metal sword would be easy to defeat, and the victory would make him famous throughout the academy. The morning inspection bell rang out across the training hall. Instructor Vex entered the room with his massive four-armed body and scarred hide from many battles. His multiple eyes scanned the assembled students looking for any problems or violations. When his gaze fell upon the gathering around Jinwoo and the girl, he began walking in their direction. Jinwoo knew this was the perfect moment. With the instructor watching, he could challenge the girl to a proper duel. Everyone would see him defeat her primitive weapon with his advanced technology. The story would spread throughout the academy and maybe even back to the outer colonies. His reputation would be secured forever as the human who proved that old ways had no place in modern warfare. The girl seemed to sense what was coming. She slowly stood up and faced Jinwoo directly. Her ancient sword hung at her side in a worn leather sheath. Despite being much smaller than him, she showed no fear or concern. If anything, she looked almost sad, as if she had seen this situation many times before and knew how it would end. Instructor Vex approached the growing crowd of students with heavy footsteps that echoed through the training hall. His four massive arms swung at his sides, and his battle-scarred face showed years of combat experience. The alien instructor had fought in more wars than most species could count, and his reputation for toughness was known throughout the galaxy. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough like grinding stone. The instructor looked down at Sora and her ancient blade with eyes that seemed to recognize something important. Jinwoo noticed this look but could not understand what it meant. He was too focused on his own plan to challenge the girl and prove his superiority in front of everyone. The other students formed a loose circle around them, waiting to see what would happen next. Jinwoo stepped forward and spoke in his loudest voice so everyone could hear him clearly. He wanted to make sure his challenge was witnessed by as many people as possible. This would make his victory even more impressive when he defeated the girl with her primitive weapon. His plasma rifle hummed with energy as if it was eager for combat. Sora looked at Jinwoo with calm, steady eyes that showed no fear or anger. She simply nodded once and said she accepted his challenge. Her voice was quiet, but everyone heard it clearly. The simplicity of her response surprised Jinwoo, who had expected her to make excuses or try to back down from the fight. Instead, she seemed almost relieved that the confrontation was finally happening. Instructor Vex studied both students for a long moment. His multiple eyes moved from Jinwoo advanced armor and weapons to Sora's simple uniform and ancient sword. The contrast between them was obvious to everyone watching. One represented the cutting edge of galactic military technology, while the other carried what looked like a museum piece from forgotten times. The instructor announced that he would allow the challenge to proceed according to Academy rules. All formal duels had to be conducted in the main combat arena with proper safety measures in place. The students began moving toward the arena level with excited chatter filling the air. News of the unusual match spread quickly through the academy corridors as they walked to the arena. Jinwoo felt confident about his chances for victory. His combat suit was loaded with the latest defensive systems, including energy shields that could stop almost any attack. His plasma rifle had multiple firing modes and targeting computers that made missing nearly impossible. The weapon could adjust its power level automatically to disable opponents without causing permanent damage. Sora walked beside him in silence. Her ancient sword remained sheathed at her side, and she showed no signs of nervousness or preparation. Most fighters would be checking their equipment or planning their strategy before an important duel. But Sora seemed completely at peace, as if the upcoming battle was just another routine training exercise. The combat arena was a large circular room with energy barriers around the edges to protect spectators. Advanced holographic systems could create any type of fighting environment from jungle terrain to space station corridors. Today, the arena was set to basic mode with a simple flat floor and neutral lighting that would not give either fighter an advantage. Students poured into the viewing areas around the arena. Representatives from every species in the academy came to watch this unusual match between high technology and ancient traditions. The betting pools immediately started with most aliens putting their credits on Jinwoo and his superior equipment. Only a few seemed interested in supporting the human girl with her old sword. Jinwoo entered the arena and immediately began activating his combat systems. His armor came online with a series of electronic beeps and flashing lights. Energy shields formed around his body, creating a faint blue glow. The plasma rifle charged up with its distinctive whining sound that every military student recognized. His heads-up display showed targeting information and tactical analysis of his opponent. Sora stepped into the arena without any fanfare or preparation. She simply drew her sword from its worn leather sheath. The blade made a soft singing sound as it came free, and for a moment everyone in the arena fell completely silent. There was something about that simple action that commanded attention and respect. The ancient steel gleamed under the arena lights, revealing the mysterious symbols carved along its edge. Jinwoo could see now that the weapon was not just old, but had been maintained with incredible care. Every surface was perfectly clean and smooth. The balance looked perfect as Sora held it naturally in one hand. Instructor Vex took his position as the official referee. His forearms crossed over his massive chest as he explained the rules of engagement. The match would continue until one fighter yielded or was unable to continue. All weapons were set to training mode to prevent serious injury, but the combat would still be real and dangerous. Jinwoo felt a moment of doubt as he looked at Sora standing calmly across from him. There was something in her posture and the way she held her sword that suggested years of serious training. Her movements were fluid and controlled, showing none of the tension he expected from someone facing superior firepower. The other students pressed against the viewing barriers, eager to see how ancient human martial arts would fare against modern galactic weapons. Many had never seen traditional sword fighting before and were curious about these primitive combat techniques. Their various species had all embraced energy weapons and technological warfare long ago. Sora closed her eyes for a brief moment and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, Jinwoo saw something that made him uncomfortable. Her gaze was completely focused and determined, but also strangely compassionate, as if she understood something about this fight that he did not. She raised her sword in what looked like a formal salute. Jinwoo responded by bringing his plasma rifle to ready position. The targeting system immediately locked onto Sora and began calculating the best angle of attack. His energy shields hummed with power, and his armor servos whined as they prepared to enhance his speed and strength for combat. Everything was ready for what should be a quick and decisive victory. Instructor Vex raised one of his forearms to signal the beginning of the match. The arena fell silent, except for the humming of Jinwoo energy systems and the almost inaudible whisper of air moving over Sora's blade. Both fighters settled into their respective stances, preparing for a battle that would be remembered by everyone present. The moment stretched out as both combatants studied each other across the arena floor. Jinwoo felt his confidence returning as he remembered all his training and successful battles. His plasma rifle could fire faster than any human could move, and his shields would protect him from any counterattack. This girl with her old sword was about to learn why modern technology had replaced primitive weapons throughout the galaxy. Instructor Vex dropped his raised arm, and the match began immediately. Jinwoo wasted no time in taking the offensive, just as his training had taught him. The first rule of modern combat was to establish dominance quickly using superior firepower and technology. He raised his plasma rifle and fired a controlled burst at So-Ra's center mass. The superheated energy particles streaked across the arena floor in a bright blue stream that left glowing trails in the air. Jinwoo had set his weapon to medium power, which would be enough to overload her nervous system and end the fight without causing permanent damage. His targeting computer showed a 97% chance of hitting the target. So-Ra did something that made every person in the arena gasp in complete shock. Instead of diving for cover or trying to dodge the plasma blast, she stepped forward directly into the path of the energy beam. Her ancient sword came up in a smooth arc that seemed almost casual in its execution. Steel blade met the plasma burst with a sound like crystal bells ringing. The energy beam split apart when it touched the sword, scattering in brilliant sparks that rained down around So-Ra like falling stars. The dispersed plasma particles faded harmlessly into the air, leaving no trace of the powerful attack that should have ended the match. Jinwoo stared at his targeting display in complete confusion. The computer was showing error messages and trying to recalibrate its sensors. According to every physics textbook he had studied, what just happened was completely impossible. Plasma energy existed at temperatures that could vaporize any known metal instantly. The spectators erupted in amazed chatter as they tried to process what they had just witnessed. Centaurian students clicked their mandibles rapidly in excitement, while Vorthan crystals hummed in harmonious wonder. Even the normally stoic Kelvar creatures made rumbling sounds of approval. The arena filled with the noise of dozens of different species, all expressing their shock. So-Ra stood exactly where she had been before the attack. Her sword was held in perfect form without any sign of damage from contact with the plasma energy. Her uniform was completely clean, and her expression remained calm and focused. She looked at Jinwoo with patient eyes, as if waiting for him to try again. Jinwoo shook his head and forced himself to concentrate. He told himself it must have been some kind of lucky deflection, or maybe his weapon had malfunctioned. There was no way that ancient piece of metal could actually cut through modern plasma technology. He adjusted his rifle settings and fired again, this time with a wider spread pattern. The second burst was designed to be impossible to dodge or deflect, covering a much larger area with overlapping energy streams. Jinwoo was confident that even if So-Ra could somehow deflect one beam, she could never handle multiple attacks coming from different angles at the same time. So-Ra moved like liquid mercury flowing around the plasma bursts, with movements that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Her sword danced through the air in patterns that were almost too fast to follow. Each energy beam that came near her met steel and scattered harmlessly away. The ancient blade sang as it cut through attack after attack. The arena fell silent again. As everyone watched this impossible display, Jinwoo fired burst after burst, but none of them could find their target. So-Ra's sword seemed to be everywhere at once, creating a shield of moving steel that no energy weapon could penetrate. Her footwork was so smooth she appeared to be dancing rather than fighting. Instructor Vex leaned forward in his position. At the edge of the arena, his scarred face showed deep interest, and something that might have been respect. The alien instructor had seen many different fighting styles during his long military career, but this display of sword work was unlike anything. In his experience, Jinwoo felt sweat beginning to form inside his combat helmet, despite the climate control systems. His energy readings showed that his plasma rifle was functioning perfectly, and his targeting computer confirmed that every shot had been aimed correctly. Yet somehow this girl with her primitive weapon was making his advanced technology look like a toy. The other students pressed closer to the viewing barriers, trying to get a better look at Sora's sword techniques. Some of them had begun recording the match on their personal devices, knowing they were witnessing something extraordinary. The betting pools had completely stopped, as nobody could predict what would happen next. Sora continued her defensive display without showing any signs of fatigue. Her breathing remained steady and controlled, while her movements flowed from one form to the next with practiced ease. The ancient symbols on her blade seemed to glow faintly in the arena lights, as if they contained some inner source of power. Jin Woo realized that his ranged attacks were completely useless against whatever technique Sora was using. His plasma rifle was the most advanced personal weapon available to Academy students, but it might as well have been shooting harmless light beams for all the good it was doing. His confidence began to crack as he faced the reality of his situation. The spectators could sense the shift in momentum as Jin Woo stopped firing and stood motionless in the center of the arena. His energy shields still hummed with power, and his armor systems remained fully operational, but his will to fight was clearly shaken. The impossible had happened, and everyone knew it. Sora lowered her sword slightly and spoke in a voice that carried clearly across the arena despite being barely above a whisper. She asked Jin Woo if he wanted to continue with ranged combat or if he preferred to try a different approach. Her tone was respectful and contained no mockery or triumph. Jin Woo looked at his plasma rifle and then at the small girl who had just made his most advanced weapon completely useless. He could continue firing until his energy cells ran empty, but the result would obviously be the same. Sora would simply deflect every shot with her impossible sword techniques while he exhausted himself. The arena waited in tense silence as Jin Woo made his decision. He could surrender now and accept defeat, or he could escalate to close combat using his armor, enhanced strength and energy blade systems. His pride would not let him give up so easily, even though every logical part of his mind was telling him this fight was already over. Sora stood patiently with her sword held in a relaxed guard position. She showed no signs of aggression or impatience, but simply waited for Jin Woo to make his choice. The ancient blade reflected the arena lights, creating shifting patterns on the floor that seemed almost hypnotic in their beauty and grace. Jin Woo made his decision and activated his armor melee combat protocols. The advanced systems came online with mechanical whining sounds as servo motors prepared to boost his strength to superhuman levels. Energy blades extended from both of his gauntlets, crackling with power that could slice through titanium steel like soft butter. His helmet display showed enhanced targeting information for close quarters combat. The energy blades hummed with barely contained power, each one capable of cutting through the heaviest armor plating used by galactic military forces. Jin Woo had trained extensively with these weapons and had never met an opponent who could stand against them in direct combat. His instructors at Titan Military Institute had praised his melee fighting skills above all others. If Sora wanted to fight with primitive blade weapons, then Jin Woo would show her what modern technology could do in close combat. His armor would multiply his strength by a factor of 10, while his energy shields would protect him from any counterattack. The small girl with her ancient sword would learn the hard way why old fighting methods had been abandoned. Sora watched Jin Woo approach with the same calm expression she had maintained. Throughout the entire match, her stance shifted slightly as she prepared for close combat, but she showed no fear or concern about facing his enhanced abilities. The ancient sword in her hands seemed to pulse with its own inner light as if responding to the coming challenge. The spectators held their breath as the two fighters closed the distance between them. This would be the decisive moment of the match, when raw power met ancient technique. Everyone expected to see Jin Woo's superior technology. finally overcome So-Ra's mysterious defensive abilities. No primitive weapon could stand against military-grade energy blades. Jin-Woo reached striking distance and immediately launched his attack. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to move faster than any unaugmented human, while his strength amplification made each blow devastatingly powerful. The energy blades left trails of superheated air as they cut through the space where So-Ra had been standing. But So-Ra was no longer there. Her movement was so fluid and natural that she seemed to simply flow around Jin-Woo's attack without any wasted motion. The ancient sword in her hands moved in precise arcs that guided his energy blades away from their intended targets. Her footwork was like watching water move around stones in a stream. Jin-Woo pressed his attack using combination strikes that should have been impossible to defend against his combat computer-calculated optimal attack patterns, while his enhanced speed allowed him to execute moves faster than normal human reflexes could follow. Yet somehow So-Ra's sword was always in exactly the right place to deflect or redirect his strikes. The energy blades clashed against ancient steel again and again, creating showers of sparks and flashes of light. Each impact sent feedback through Jin-Woo armor systems as his weapons met unexpected resistance. The collision of high technology and traditional craftsmanship filled the arena with the sounds of modern warfare, meeting ancient martial arts. So-Ra began to counterattack with movements that seemed almost like dancing. Her sword traced patterns in the air that were both beautiful and deadly, while she remained perfectly balanced and controlled. Jin-Woo found himself being pushed back as his aggressive assault was turned against him by techniques he had never encountered before. The other students watched in amazement as the small human girl began to dominate the fight against a much larger opponent, wearing the most advanced combat armor available. Her sword work was unlike anything they had seen in their military training programs. The blade moved with precision that seemed to anticipate Jin-Woo attacks before he made them. Jin-Woo realized that his individual strikes were not working, so he decided to use his most powerful combination attack. His armor systems channeled maximum energy into both blades, while his servos prepared for a devastating cross-slash that would end the fight. The energy readings spiked as his weapons reached their highest power output. He charged forward with his energy blades raised in a pattern that would create an inescapable cage of cutting power. No defense could possibly block such a massive attack, and Jin-Woo was already planning his victory speech as he brought both weapons down toward So-Ra's position. The crowd leaned forward, expecting to see the match end. So-Ra met his attack head-on with a movement so smooth it looked effortless. Her ancient sword intercepted both energy blades at exactly the moment when their power was concentrated in the smallest space. The three weapons locked together in a brief struggle of opposing forces that lit up the entire arena. Then something happened that would be talked about in the academy for years to come. So-Ra twisted her blade in a motion that seemed to flow like water and stepped aside with perfect timing. Jin-Woo's momentum carried him past her while she moved with him, maintaining contact between their weapons. The ancient steel sang as it traced a line across his armored chest. Jin-Woo felt only the slightest pressure against his armor as So-Ra's blade made contact with his chest plate. The sensation was so gentle that his suit sensors barely registered it as physical contact. He continued his charge for several more steps before the feedback systems in his helmet began flashing warning messages. When Jin-Woo finally stopped and turned around, he looked down at his chest and saw something that made his mind struggle to process what had happened. His military-grade composite armor had been cut cleanly from his left shoulder to his right hip. The line was so precise, it looked like it had been drawn with a laser rather than cut with a blade. The arena fell into complete silence as everyone stared at Jin-Woo's damaged armor. The cut was so clean and perfect that it had taken several seconds for the suit systems to register the breach in their defenses. Warning lights began flashing across. his heads-up display as energy shields flickered and failed throughout his entire combat system. So-Ra stood quietly nearby with her ancient sword held at her side. The blade showed no signs of damage from its contact with advanced energy weapons and military armor. In fact, it looked exactly the same as it had when the match began. The mysterious symbols along its edge seemed to glow with satisfaction, as if the weapon itself was pleased with its performance. Jin Woo touched the cut in his armor with trembling fingers. The edges were perfectly smooth, showing that So-Ra blade had sliced through his defenses without any resistance at all. His chest plate had been constructed from materials that were supposed to withstand direct hits, from plasma cannons, yet this simple steel sword had defeated it effortlessly. The spectators began to whisper among themselves as they tried to understand what they had just witnessed. Representatives from every species in the galaxy had seen their most advanced military technology rendered useless by what appeared to be a primitive human weapon. The implications were staggering for everyone present. Instructor Vex stepped into the arena and raised one of his forearms to signal the end of the match. His multiple eyes focused on So-Ra ancient blade with an expression of deep respect and recognition. The scarred alien instructor had fought in countless battles, but he had never seen anything quite like the demonstration he had just witnessed. Jin Woo slowly began removing his damaged armor pieces while trying to come to terms with his complete defeat. Everything he had been taught about the superiority of modern technology had been proven wrong by a teenage girl with a sword that looked like it belonged in a museum. His pride was shattered, but something else was beginning to take its place. Instructor Vex stepped into the center of the arena with his massive presence commanding immediate attention from every person in the facility. His forearms gestured for complete silence, while his battle-scarred face showed the kind of seriousness that made even the most rebellious students pay attention. The alien instructor had seen many unusual things during his long military career, but this demonstration deserved special explanation. The instructor began speaking in his deep, gravelly voice that echoed throughout the arena chambers. He told the assembled students that what they had just witnessed was not simply a training match between two different fighting styles. Instead, they had seen a collision between two completely different approaches to warfare that represented thousands of years of military evolution. So-Ra stood respectfully beside her instructor while her ancient sword remained sheathed at her side. The simple leather scabbard looked even more worn and primitive, next to all the advanced technology surrounding them. Yet everyone in the arena now understood that appearances could be extremely deceiving when it came to evaluating true combat effectiveness. Instructor Vex explained that before humanity joined, the Galactic Alliance, their homeworld, had been a place of constant warfare and conflict. Unlike most species who had developed energy weapons early in their technological advancement, humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of metal blade combat. Their planet had been divided into countless nations and kingdoms that fought endless wars. The instructor described how human warriors had faced a unique challenge in their military development. They could not rely on advanced technology to win their battles because their enemies often had access to the same weapons and defenses. Instead, they had to develop fighting techniques that depended on skill training discipline and an understanding of combat that went far beyond simple weapon operations. So-Ra ancient blade represented the culmination of this martial tradition. The sword had been forged using techniques that were passed down through generations of master craftsmen. Each fold of the steel had been carefully planned to create a structure that was stronger and more flexible than modern materials could match. The weapon was not just a tool but a work of art that embodied centuries of accumulated knowledge. The mysterious symbols carved along the blade edge were not merely decorative elements as most students had assumed. Instead, they represented a complete fighting philosophy that had been developed through countless battles and refined by warriors who knew their lives depended on their skills. Each mark, told a story of hard-won lessons and techniques that had been proven effective in real combat. Jin Woo listened to this explanation while sitting on a bench at the edge of the arena. His damaged armor lay in pieces around him, showing the clean, precise cuts that Sora Blade had made through the most advanced personal protection system in the known galaxy. His pride was still wounded, but he was beginning to understand that his defeat represented something much larger than a simple training exercise. The instructor continued his lesson by explaining that human martial arts were based on principles that energy weapons could not replicate. Modern plasma rifles and energy blades relied on raw power and technological superiority to overwhelm opponents. But traditional sword fighting required the warrior to understand timing distance balance and the flow of combat energy in ways that no computer could calculate. Sora finally spoke for the first time since the match had ended. Her voice was quiet, but carried clearly through the arena as she shared the history of her particular weapon. The sword had been carried by her great-grandmother during the Siege of New Seoul, when human colonies were fighting for independence from Earth-based governments. Her ancestor had used the blade to protect civilian evacuation ships from military forces. The weapon had then passed to Sora's grandmother, who had wielded it during the Martian Independence Wars, when the Red Planet colonies rebelled against corporate control. Her grandmother had fought in the famous Battle of Olympus Mons, where a small group of traditional warriors had held off an entire mechanized division using nothing but sword techniques and tactical knowledge Sora's mother had inherited. The blade next, and had used it to defend outer colony settlements from space pirates and raiders. The weapon had seen action in dozens of small conflicts where advanced military equipment was not available or practical. Traditional fighting skills had often been the difference between survival and destruction for isolated human communities. Each generation of women in Sora's family had added their own knowledge and techniques to the sword fighting tradition they had learned from their battles, and passed down both the physical techniques and the mental discipline required to master such demanding combat skills. The blade itself had become a repository of accumulated wisdom that no training manual could contain. The instructor explained that this was why Sora had been able to defeat Jinwoo's modern equipment so decisively. Her sword techniques were not just individual moves, but part of a complete system that had been tested and refined through actual combat experience. The ancient blade carried the weight of real battlefield knowledge that simulation training could never replicate. The spectators began to understand that they had witnessed something far more significant than a simple demonstration of fighting techniques. They had seen the meeting of two different military philosophies, one based on technological advancement and the other rooted in human adaptability and traditional wisdom. The implications would change how they thought about combat training. Jin Woo stood up slowly and approached Sora with a completely different attitude than he had shown before the match. His earlier arrogance had been replaced by genuine curiosity and respect. He asked if she would be willing to teach him some of the basic principles behind her sword techniques. His request surprised everyone because it showed real humility from someone who had been so confident before. Sora smiled for the first time since entering the arena. Her expression showed that she understood. Jin Woo's journey from pride to wisdom was just beginning. She nodded and said she would be happy to share what she knew with anyone who approached the training with proper respect and dedication. The ancient traditions were meant to be preserved and passed on to new generations. Other students began raising their hands and voices, asking questions about human martial arts and traditional weapons. The atmosphere in the arena had completely changed from entertainment and mockery to serious academic interest. Representatives from different alien species wanted to know if their own worlds had similar fighting traditions that had been forgotten in favor of modern technology. Instructor Vex announced that special training sessions would be arranged for students who wanted to learn about traditional combat methods alongside their regular technology-based curriculum. The Academy recognized that military education should include understanding of all effective fighting systems regardless of their age or apparent sophistication level. The demonstration had proven that ancient wisdom still had value in modern warfare, and that the most advanced technology was not always the best solution for every combat situation. The lesson would reshape military training throughout the Galactic Alliance, as instructors realized they had been overlooking important aspects of warrior development. In the days following the match, the dynamic within the Academy shifted dramatically. Jin Woo found himself approaching Sora with genuine curiosity rather than mockery, asking questions about her training and the history of her weapon. She answered, patiently, explaining the philosophy behind her martial arts and the discipline required to master such ancient techniques. The other cadets began to view the human contingent with new respect. They realized that while they had been focusing on mastering the latest technology, humanity had never abandoned the fundamental principles of warfare. The combination of ancient wisdom and modern tactics made them formidable opponents in ways that pure technology could never achieve. Instructor Vex arranged for special training sessions where Sora could share her knowledge with interested cadets. Jin Woo was among the first to volunteer, his earlier embarrassment transformed into genuine desire to learn. He discovered that mastering such weapons required not just physical skill, but mental discipline, spiritual balance, and an understanding of combat philosophy that went far deeper than targeting systems and energy outputs. As graduation approached, the entire academy had gained a new appreciation for the diversity of combat traditions represented among their ranks. Jin Woo and Sora developed a friendship built on mutual respect, with him learning ancient techniques while she studied modern tactical applications. Their partnership became legendary among the cadets, representing the perfect fusion of old wisdom and new technology. During their final evaluation, they were paired together for a joint mission simulation. Jin Woo's advanced technology provided reconnaissance and fire support, while Sora's ancient blade proved decisive in close combat situations where energy weapons would have been too dangerous to use. Their success demonstrated that the future of galactic defense lay not in abandoning the old ways, but in understanding how ancient wisdom could enhance modern capabilities. The story concluded with both cadets graduating with highest honors, their friendship serving as a bridge between humanity's proud martial traditions and their bright future among the stars. Sora's ancient blade had taught them all that some things never become obsolete. Skill, discipline, and the warrior's spirit remain as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago.